I'm Willie, and I'm here to ask OSU World Cup players the questions we've all wanted answers to. Today, I'm talking to FlyingTuna from South Korea. He's been a part of teams that have placed third in the World Cup once and second in the World Cup twice, including last year, where they made it to the grand finals before losing on tiebreaker to the United States. Now, he's back and feeling better than ever. Hello, FlyingTuna. Welcome.
Hello.
Your rank has been shooting up recently, and your performance points total is now almost 20,000. How would you feel if you opened up the OWC map pool and right there in the DT1 slot was Brazil?
Oh, okay. That is. Yeah, I can assess definitely because the DT1 will be Brazil. But realistically,
do you think you could take the point?
Versus like example like USA.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so basically we're in the grand final OWC 2024, and it turns out that the DT1 is Brazil. Okay, the answer is no. But I feel like the roster that we have is not for the Brazil. It's too high BPM. I think USA has more potential. Unless I FC, that can happen.
You've been improving a lot. You've even been FCing maps from last year's World Cup pools, such as Burning Star with Hidden Hard Rock. Do you feel even more prepared after all this training?
I would say 2023 was like my lowest performance year. My consistency was like the lowest, and I got so much pressure. But this year compared to 2023, I would say 2024 is like my most prepared year for sure. Even compared to 2021, it's not even close. I am the most confident. I feel the most consistent.
In July, you won the gold in the Laser Grand Arena, which is OSU Laser's first ever major tournament. Do you think we'll see more Laser tournaments in the future?
Oh, I think so. I would love to see more tournaments from Laser. One of the biggest reasons is that I personally really like the scoring system in Laser. I feel like it's not too combo based. If you just perform well, I think you can get pretty good score. I don't really have too weak skills. It kind of feels weird for me to say myself, but all-rounded player take so much advantage, and that's what I like.
Yeah, if you're good at everything, then you're gonna excel.
Yeah, exactly.
You seemed excited about the new OWC rule set now allowing double bans on the same mod.
Oh yeah.
Are there any other changes you would like to see to the rules?
Honestly, I'm already so happy that the double ban is allowed. I haven't really thought of other rule changes that I hope see it happen.
I'm just happy fails count now after 2018.
Oh yeah, bro. Yeah.
South Korea has always been one of the best teams out there, and star players usually get a lot of attention. Who do you feel is the most underrated player on the South Korea roster?
I feel like from last year, Allegrissimo got a lot of attention because he really did deserve it. And now this year, I feel like Doomsday fanboy because he is really good. He always does some unexpected. He just manages to FC when we really need it, and his consistency is really, really good.
He's a very clutch player.
Yeah, exactly. He is like a clutch player, and I really value that. And yeah, you guys can actually look forward of the Doomsday fanboys performance this year.
Now, as many might know, you used to be arguably the best mouse player in the world before switching to tablet. Would you ever consider switching back?
No. No.
What if Peppy offered you $1 million?
Oh, yes.
See, that changes everything. I see.
Yeah, that changes everything. Yeah, I really appreciate mouse players, but I actually sometimes play with mouse again, but that mouse drift issue, that problem is still a thing, and I just hate it.
Last year, South Korea took the United States to a tiebreaker in Grand Finals bracket reset, but just barely fell short. Now with the addition of new players, do you think this is your best shot ever at a World Cup title?
Yeah, definitely. In 2023, I expected that team to be the best team that we've ever made, and I never thought this year we would make the team even stronger, but we actually managed to. Especially myself, I feel much more confident. I really feel like I can do it. Last year, it was a full of doubt, but compared to that, this year, I'm just filled with the confidence and belief we'll do our best.
Well, best of luck to you. Thank you so much for coming out for this interview.
Thank you so much for inviting.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone watching from home, and welcome back to the US World Cup 2024. We are here for the winners finals, a battle of titans, a matchup that a couple of years ago would have been David versus Goliath. No matter who was on the left side of the screen, it would have always been the United States as Goliath, but no more. The last couple years in a row now have shown us that Giants too can bleed. I am Dio, and I have the honor of bringing you this cast alongside this one guy for the winners finals of the US World Cup 2024.
And what a winners final this is gonna be, man. It is an immovable object versus an unstoppable force. The clear-cut top two teams in the bracket this year. Korea on this 22-0 map win streak. United States looking about as strong as ever. Anybody who saw the qualifiers results had this date penciled in on their calendar. They were ready for the inevitable. The South Korea-United States rematch once more, and we got it here, and man, oh man, I am so ready.
I am so ready. As you said, it's two teams that have looked pretty much impeccable throughout the tournament. South Korea has not dropped a single map. They were number one seed out of qualifiers and have proceeded to drop 0 maps whatsoever throughout the entire tournament. The United States, on the other hand, have just looked better and better as the tournament has gone on. Par for the course for the United States, honestly. This is a team that historically has done nothing but scale into the later stages and outshine everyone when it counts the most. So to see that happen again here in 2024 is no surprise. This is a stylistically different matchup for both of these teams as well. The United States this year, kind of an all-rounder roster built to do pretty much everything at a very high level. South Korea, while they're a little underrated on speed, definitely have their strengths well defined in the aim control, the reading, and the hidden mod. So a lot of room for picks for both of these teams with the kind of stylistic matchup that we have between them. And Aaron, it's match time. It's time to get into that map pool. It's time to get into the bans, hopefully, as we see these teams start to face off against one another. And just looking at the rosters again, you can see exactly why they have this stylistic matchup. Players like Worst HR Player, like FlyingTuna, like fragranceofpage, like Hyok have been staples for South Korea throughout the tournament so far. Karcher as well, through both the qualifiers and other rounds, has been very, very solid for them on a lot of the aim-focused maps, whereas for the United States, you're looking at Utami, you're looking at Rectigon, you're looking at WindowLife, Pezz, you're looking at tekkito, and these players, lots of them very, very strong on the speed.
Yeah, you know, these two teams, right? It was the grand finals matchup in 2022. It was the grand finals matchup again in 2023. And somehow both of them just managed to keep getting even better, which is absurd. You know, South Korea, as you mentioned, they bring in some of these new players. They bring in Hyok, they bring in fragranceofpage. United States brings back decaten and Utami from past winning years. They bring in Pezz, one of the most hyped rookies of the year. And yeah, United States has done this job of bolstering their speed roster. Their mechanics lineup has gotten even better. South Korea, gotten better at mechanics, gotten even better at the aim control, at really anything you can ask for. When you bring in Hyok, you bring in Page, you bring in a lot of strong things. And already seeing some unsurprising bans here, right? Nomad 5, I think we were basically guaranteed to see banned out by South Korea. They don't want to have to contend with this insane United States speed roster. Going to ban out the DT3 as well. That 300 BPM DT pick gone from the pool. United States, meanwhile, as expected, also banning into South Korea's strengths. The hidden 2 reading, overlap heavy hidden pick, and the hidden 1 just getting rid of an extreme strength for South Korea, who themselves are going to have the first pick. They're going to go into this Nomad 2, and this is a map that we did talk about this team being very strong on. The control aim, the alt skill sets, so good for the South Korea roster, have continued to be good for years on end. And I think this is kind of the expectation, right, of this match. We talked about it at length beforehand, and you're anticipating South Korea going into the aim control skill sets and whatever is available of reading and tech skill sets. United States, on the other hand, going to look probably to opt into the tapping mechanics. So starting off with a map that I think is very expected to see the South Korea team really like a lot.
This is the bread and butter for South Korea, right? I mean, if you look at any one skill set that this team is unparalleled on, it has to be this kind of aim control focused alt pick, right? This is the thing that so many of their members came up through the tournament ranks for, that they became known for. You think of Amamya Kokoro, you think aim control alt. You think worst HR player, you think aim control alt. You think fragranceofpage, you think aim control alt. You think FlyingTuna. For a long time, you thought aim control alt. Now, it's very many years since that's the only thing you thought of when you think FlyingTuna, but that's how he got his start as well. You think about just about anyone on this roster, and this type of skill set should be one of the very first things that comes to mind. And it's no surprise that they're first picking it as well, when this is just something that they have an absolute world-class roster. You could see this. You could see any of these 4 players 1v1ing on this sort of map in a grand finals tournament in an open rank 1v1. So not at all a surprise to see them picking into this first. And as for the United States, obviously, they are still going to have a good roster for most of these maps, right? This is a roster that was built to do it all, and they definitely can. Tekkito, Decaten, Pezz, all very good aim control players. Not going to be seeing Rectagon in for this one. It's going to be Utami to fill out the 4th player for the United States, but yeah, it's still an extremely scary roster for the United States. Just, it's the first pick for South Korea. You have to expect this roster to deliver on it.
You do, and I will say, though, it does feel a little bit like a lot of these picks for South Korea, because they're not quite such binary skill sets, right, in the aim control alt type of department, as well as the tech. The variation in score is going to be a lot higher than on something like a speed map. So it does feel like there are quite a few of these South Korea picks that could be contested, and the United States is going to look to get that going early. They've got a roster that thrives on momentum. Any early breakpoint, any early lead is going to be really big, but South Korea is a team that's just looked indomitable this year. As we mentioned, has not dropped a single point, has had so many just really one-sided maps, let alone match scores, and this roster has been dominating time and time again. Anytime you see worst HR player, FlyingTuna, fragranceofpage in for a map, it's going to be scary. And so here we go into map number 1, winners final. This will be one of these teams winning. Between the two of them, they've won the last 4 winners finals, with Korea taking the last 2, USA taking it, or excuse me, last 6, USA taking it from 2018 to 2021. Something's got to give here, and I don't know what it's going to be, but a few hundred combo in, and it's not much at all, as this map is dead even with 8 FCs still on the board.
And this map, we haven't talked a lot about this map because we've been talking about the teams, but this map is ridiculous for these back and forth patterns. You see Amamya Kokoro, FlyingTuna, Utami all breaking right at the start of this first PI time, and this map has not just the aim control patterns, not just the high spacing flow aim, but at a very high BPM for an alt pick. This is 168 BPM. Another few breaks come through Tekkito, Decaten, and fragranceofpage. It's now 0 FCs for the United States, only worst HR player to hold for South Korea. This is the guy who managed to carry them as a star player in grand finals last year, almost to victory. This is the player who managed to start their comeback in bracket reset during the 2022 grand finals. And this is the player that you are going to look to as the star performer for South Korea, somebody on whom there are massive expectations as the number 1 performance score player out of qualifiers, number 1 in quarterfinals, number 2 in semifinals. He will finally miss with enough work done by the caster curse, but there's not too many big combos on the United States. They do have the advantage, but we're going to get into another big section right after this shorter flow aim part, and it's right back into the difficult parts of the map.
And it's right back into the difficult part of the map, with the United States holding on to combo on all 4 members. Decaten does fall, but it's traded out. Amamya Kokoro, FlyingTuna going down. Pezz falls there, but the United States does manage to take a little bit of a lead. It's about 30,000 points, still a quarter of the map to go, but those big combos on Tekkito and Utami are going to be doing work. And there's another break from worst HR player traded with Tekkito. Utami falls next, and now fragranceofpage, newcomer to the South Korea roster, going to see if he can pull this score. back their way. It is little and less in between the two teams here on this first pick as fragranceofpage does break. That's going to stem the flow of that score heading to South Korea. United States holding for now and expanding the lead a little bit here into the late stage. It is big wiggle stream, and everybody but decaten hits it. And we might be seeing United States clutching an early advantage, but Utami falls, decaten falls again. There is still a little bit of time here.
But there's just no combo on the side of South Korea. It's all up to worst HR player. tekkito and Pezz will break as well, but it's 70k in the favor of the United States. There have to be chain misses coming from the USA, and right now they're coming from South Korea. The score goes back the way of the United States, and it's 90k, 87k in favor of the United States, and that is the first point that any team has taken off of South Korea this entire tournament. It's in winners finals, and United States takes their first pick as a break point by 87,000 to start off the match. And this is the difficulty. You said it before the map started, Aaron, for South Korea, that these picks, they are not so binary. They are not so one-sided that you can just expect wins on every pick for South Korea from this team in this matchup. This is not like the last 4 rounds of the tournament.
It is absolutely not at all. You have a better team on the other side from South Korea in this USA roster that knows how to get it done in the biggest moments, and you've got players who are going to be able to perform on skill sets that we normally ascribe as South Korean dominated. United States can show up, whoever it may be, tekkito or decaten or Pezz or Utami, the whole roster putting up better scores than all but worst HR player on South Korea. And that, as you said, first point dropped by this Korean roster this entire tournament. It's a break point to start off the match. And in our discussion before the match, I feel like we talked a bit about how the United States wanted to find a break point somewhere. They can't just rely on winning their own picks and hoping for tiebreaker at best, because that tiebreaker is such a toss-up between these teams, and now they've started off the match exactly how they would have liked. It's going to be DT1 as their first pick. I don't think really any surprise there to see Hold Your Color opening things up for the USA, an extremely strong speed mechanics team, and this is 261 BPM D&B burst heavy with a little bit of aim thrown in right up the USA's alley.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the big thing for the United States is a lot of these picks, you want to see these dominant members for South Korea out of the lobby, right? All the people we talked about going in for that No Mod 2, people like Forum, people like Tuna, people like fragranceofpage, people like Karcher, people like Hyok, right? These people do not really like playing the speed. Hyok has gotten a lot better at it. Karcher, of course, is solid on it, but the real star players in Forum and FlyingTuna and fragranceofpage for South Korea, these have been their general speaking top performers through multiple rounds of the tournament. These are all players who don't really like the speed maps, right? And so if you are United States, you want those players in the lobby as little as possible during your own picks, and this is a very effective way of getting them out of the lobby, picking this DT1. AR 10.5, by the way, in the finals weekend. It's been a little while since 10.5 has made its way into the general community tournament scene. A lot more of it in the US World Cup this year as well. That semifinals DT4 from last weekend also. Some of that higher AR 10.5 in the DT pool. This one as well, going up on that. And yeah, a very, very mechanics-heavy, straightforward map. Lots of 260 BPM streams, lots of jumps, lots of bursts. And this is something that South Korea, yeah, they have 4 people who can play this, but the United States, again, on paper, favored for this. The trouble with this map is that, unlike on the No Mod 5, this is, again, not so binary of a pick that this is unwinnable for South Korea. So I think a lot of these picks that you're going to see with the bans that have already come out aren't going to look super one-sided. Even a map like this is accessible for these South Korean players who have been grinding the speed, grinding the tapping throughout the year, and making it so that they can contest when it comes down to it.
Yeah, South Korea, after last year, we saw them take that break point on the Free Mod 2 in Grand Finals. Remember that speed pick back then? They were eliminated in second place largely due to the heavy mechanics tiebreaker. And I think ever since then, they became determined to not let that sort of thing happen again. But United States, man, you look at this roster and you've just got such good tapping players. You were expecting great things out of this roster every single time. And, you know, we talked a little bit in the early goings that South Korea may be a little bit underrated on the speed skill set. And now's their chance to prove a lot of people wrong about what they can do on these types of maps. We see several early breaks. It's Hyok, it's FragranceofPage, Doomsday, Fanboy, tekkito, WindowLife, and Rectagon all breaking. FlyingTuna and Utami already the only two FCs left in the lobby.
The problem with those early breaks, though, a lot of ACK dropped for South Korea, particularly on Hyok, and FlyingTuna is on the 93% FC versus the 97% for Utami, so another 30k score lead right there for the United States. The recovery is good for everyone, though. Everyone now still holding just fine as we get into the more jump and burst section of this DMB DT1. Not so much the longer streams anymore, and so a lot of people far more comfortable. But another break comes through for FragranceofPage, and that's the only break to be spotted so far. So another combo lead over to the United States, and just going to keep that score lead on their side and accrue even more for the Americans. Hyok with another break. FlyingTuna, FragranceofPage also breaking at the same time. tekkito will match, but that's the only break from the United States, and that is a three-way break you do not want to see if you are rooting for South Korea. Now just Doomsday Fanboy left alone. He falls too, and that is now the United States. Utami still on the FC, Rectagon on the reverse choke, WindowLife on the reverse choke, and high 97 accuracy at the lowest for these three players. Just a massive combo lead, massive score lead, already over 400k for the United States, and no signs of slowing.
This is the USA's playground. This type of map is what we predicted that they would be picking and enjoying in this matchup, and you're seeing it play out live as to exactly why that is. 95 ACK Tuna, 92 ACK on Hyok. Meanwhile, nearly 99 on WindowLife, high 97s on Rectagon Utami. Another three-way reset for South Korea despite the break from WindowLife. This one is long gone. One-way traffic on the first pick for the United States in exactly the way they would have liked it. Proving a decisive advantage, at least on this pick, is really good for them, as we said. So good with momentum is this United States team, has this United States been for so long. If they get going in a match, it is tough sledding to try and bring it back, and the early break point and the humongous consolidation is going to do wonders for them getting this match going. It is an Utami full combo still intact into the ending. It is a Rectagon reverse choke, a tekkito high combo into the ending as well. 1.2 million points, the score lead, and growing. United States absolutely dominant on their first pick here.
Yeah, this is a far cry from the extremely close Nomad 2 breakpoint for the USA we just saw out of South Korea on their first pick. This is the United States asserting dominance and saying, yes, you were right to ban out those other speed maps. You needed to ban this out against us because there is no chance you are taking this skill set against us. 1.6 million team score difference for the United States on this pick. They almost double South Korea's team score on this map. In the winners semifinals, we were looking at South Korea's overall team score differences against Germany, and it came out to like an average 800k or something. The United States just generated that kind of average score lead in 2 picks with this DT1 performance. I think this is the second highest overall team score difference in the tournament. The only other higher one being UK's DT1 performance versus Canada last weekend, where UK effectively 4-way FC'd the map. So United States, with this kind of a score difference not on a 4-way FC, that is absolutely ridiculous in terms of just how dominant the scoreline was for this team.
And that is a scary proposition if you're on the other side. You see USA coming in and putting up score lines like that. Puts the fear of God in you, perhaps, as an opponent. But South Korea only down the 1 break point. It's not like the match is anything close to over. And here is a skill set that we have seen kind of surprisingly ignored by this South Korean roster for much of the bracket stage. They're going to go into the hidden 3. United States, of course, banned out both of the other hiddens in this pool. And South Korea was dominant on the hiddens in round of 16 as well as in the qualifiers, but they didn't play a single hidden in quarterfinals or semifinals. At least not picked a single hidden in those rounds. So we kind of were left wondering what was going on there. Was it something of a bait And perhaps the answer to that is now proven to be a resounding no, as they're going to opt into the Hidden 3 with their own second pick of this match. And this is, well, is it a bait from the United States? They banned the other 2 Hiddens, left this one up, so this was their most preferred of the 3. That doesn't mean they're going to be great at it, but it means it's their preferred Hidden if they're going to have to play one of them. South Korea, though, insane Hidden team. Gotta like them on a map such as this one.
Again, South Korea had both the number 1 and number 2 scores on both Hidden maps and qualifiers. Yes, they haven't played it much since then, but as you said, this is a team that you really can't discount on the Hidden, especially something like this. This is largely a awkward, jumbled flow-aim test. It is a Daria core song mapped by Wafer, so a lot of slider jumps, a lot of really wonky tech sliders, and the vast majority of the combo in this map comes from these 193 BPM, almost Rubik's Cube-esque streams that just have overlapping wiggles, doubling back on themselves all over the place, and it is a bear to play. In some ways, Hidden can actually make the flow aim on this easier, but when you start to get higher spacing, high curvature, sometimes that Hidden becomes very, very difficult once again. So this is an extremely tough pick. Again, United States, they left this one up out of the remaining Hiddens, but South Korea also left DT1 up out of the remaining DTs. So, you know, it goes both ways here. We'll see if South Korea can generate a similar sort of comfortable lead on this map for themselves. Amamya Kokoro, FragranceOfPage, FlyingTuna, worst HR player in for South Korea to try to put up a point on the board against the United States with decaten, Rectagon, Utami, and tekkito on this Hidden 3. Shout out to Pezz, by the way, for reaching out to me for this sample in December 2023. In the works for a while.
This is a very, very cool track to have for sure. And it got a deservingly excellent map. And here we are going to go into some of these really challenging flow and slider patterns, and it's immediately a full reset for United States. South Korea holding the 4-way, United States nothing left already. So maybe this entire Hidden pool was just not good for USA, and it didn't matter which one they left up. We'll see what happens the rest of the way through, though. 3 minutes long, but they are struggling mightily in the early going. South Korea is just racing out to an early lead. There are the breaks from 3 members, though. Amamya Kokoro, FragranceOfPage, and worst HR player all to fall. That's going to, you know, put a little bit of a band-aid on the bleeding that the United States was suffering in the early stages here. But FlyingTuna still holding on to that full combo. We'll see what Rectagon and Utami can do to try to pull this combo difference back at least a little bit. It didn't get too out of hand, 150k the lead, but not the greatest start here. Meanwhile, South Korea doing what they needed to on this pick so far. FlyingTuna's got to hold, though.
Yeah, FlyingTuna has to hold. The recoveries are there for Rectagon and Utami, but better combo for at least one of the recovery combos over either decaten and tekkito. But there goes decaten now, and so the United States dropping one of those recovery combos. There goes Utami as well, and now suddenly the United States looking grimmer and grimmer on this map. The score lead jumping out to about 250k now for South Korea off the back of this full combo from FlyingTuna. Tekkito and Rectagon do have supporting combos here for the United States. They do have recoveries. There's another miss to come through for Amamya Kokoro. Decaten will match another miss to come through for both of those players. But FragranceOfPage and worst HR player are matching Tekkito and Rectagon. There goes tekkito as well, multiple times at that. And there goes FlyingTuna. He will finally drop the FC, but it just does not matter. FragranceOfPage and worst HR player are there to have his back, and that is what makes this roster so scary, is that all of these players can individually pop off on a map like this.
You are terrified of all 4 members in the lobby right now for South Korea on a map like this. When one combo falls, another one rises up to take its place. Whether it's Page, whether it's Forum, Tuna, Amamya Kokoro, whoever, somebody will have a big combo and somebody will be there to pick up any slack that might be left. And it's going to be a pretty sizable win here for South Korea on their second pick. This is going to get them on the board. United States has the consolidated break point, but that is a much better feeling map for South Korea, winning it by a 420-ish thousand point margin. After we get through this last little bit here, it does go up to 427k. And that will allow them to take a little bit of a breath after dropping those first 2 points, including a break point, and remind everyone why they are here and how they got here in such one-sided fashion so often, because they are so good at some of these very difficult, demanding maps. And that is the kind of performance we are more accustomed to seeing of the South Korean roster this year.
Yeah, this is a very solid team score, and again, it's these staple members for them. FlyingTuna, worst HR player, fragranceofpage, and Amamya Kokoro, who hasn't had the limelight a lot in this World Cup so far, has had a sort of quieter performance, has not been in on as many picks as players like Karcher or as players like Hyuk. So good to see Amamya Kokoro, one of the best tournament players, full stop, coming in for a few more picks here in the winners finals, because this is a very scary player and definitely a warranted part of this roster for Korea, somebody who can absolutely make the difference when it counts on maps like that. So good to see them back in as well. And now for the United States, I mean, at some point you have to just expect the DT2, right? I mean, the lead on DT1 was 1.6 million almost. They almost doubled the team score from South Korea. You kind of have to expect the DT2, but it's going to be Hard Rock 3 instead. This was a pick we weren't completely sure about from the United States. This is a team that so far this tournament has not really liked these sorts of Space Stream maps, but this pick is quite different from a normal Space Stream map. This is not My Heart Will Go On. This is not Reason. This is not, you know, any of those sorts of farm Space Stream maps. This is a Mazarin map with tons and tons of corners, changing stream shapes, all different sorts of streams in this map. A lot of linear streams, a lot of changes into kind of basic jump aim, as well as high spacing circular flow at the same time. And those transitions, those shorter or slightly shorter stream lengths in this map as well, can be very good if you are a team that isn't super happy with your kind of basic stream farm like My Heart Will Go On.
And we really kind of waffled a lot on this map as to whether or not it would be something the United States would want to pick into, because of those reasons you're describing, you know, not really loving a lot of the flowway maps in the pools so far, and just the raw difficulty of the way this particular map is created. But they are going to decide to opt into this, you know, their list of maps feels like it maybe runs out a little sooner than South Korea, so the priority on a map like this might go up a little bit. But this South Korea roster on the map of this style is pretty scary. You've got a flowing monster in Karcher. You've got players like Hyuk, Allegrissimo, Doomsday, Fanboy to choose from, Amamya Kokoro, FlyingTuna. Like, again, it's a situation where South Korea can put together a four-man roster out of several different options for a lot of these picks. And it is going to look like these four. So we're going to see that four members for South Korea. We're going to see Pezz, WindowLife, decaten, and Rectagon for the United States. Maybe expected like a tekkito or an Utami, but both of them out on this one. So we will see how this roster handles this very challenging flow test, as United States will be looking to hold on to their breakpoint advantage throughout the match. But a map like this, South Korea feels like they might just be able to find inroads. Very easy to break on so many of those changing angle streams and very challenging flow patterning. This is one to keep your eyes on, because this could go any which way throughout its entire duration. And it's a long one, 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, very early break to start us off from WindowLife on the side of the United States, but nothing to write home about. Just a, 20 combo difference here at the start. Another break to come through for Amamya Kokoro, but is matched by a chain miss to come through for WindowLife. So another couple of those breaks. Going to keep things on the side of South Korea for now, but very, very slowly going their way. And in fact, I think going back the way of the United States ever so slightly. Maybe the accuracy advantage for the U.S. pulling things back their way, but just a slight score lead for South Korea. And into the first KI time here, you can see now going into some of the jump aim, going into some of these circular stream flow with the higher spacing. It changes up a lot from the linears preceding this section, and there goes FlyingTuna. Does find what I think was a miss-aim on the start of a stream, and missed a couple of notes right at the start there. Back into the linear flow now with the high spacing. FlyingTuna gonna find another drop there. It's Karcher, Hyuk, and Amamya Kokoro to fight against Pezz, decaten, and Rectagon, all on FCs, plus WindowLife, on this matching supporting combo from Amamya Kokoro. And this is, once again, the United States pulling out with a lead on their own pick. The full combo advantage doing all the work right now in their favor. But there goes Pezz! Does find a misaim. WindowLife also misaiming right afterwards, and suddenly it's right back the way of South Korea. They have the full combo lead now, and the matching supporting combo to go with it. Just the two FCs now for decaten and Rectagon.
But of course, right as you say that, it's going to be Amamya Kokoro, Karcher, and FlyingTuna all to fall. And just like that, it goes back over to the United States again. It goes back and forth once more. It is Hyuk holding the combo for South Korea, but decaten and Rectagon holding down the fort for the United States just past halfway mark. These flow changing spacing and awkward patterns can catch you out easily. It's a double reset again. It's Karcher and Hyuk to fall. WindowLife and decaten. There goes Rectagon as well. And now it is again the lead to South Korea, as is Amamya Kokoro, FlyingTuna both matching the Pezz combo. And they have plenty of time to work at bringing this score back if they can both hold. It never got that big. It's only 100 for decaten. Another couple chain misses from decaten and hydrogen bomb. That is Rectagon. I can never... it is breaks everywhere, is what I am trying to say. Nobody able to hold very well, but Amamya Kokoro, FlyingTuna, and Pezz still keeping it going.
I think South Korea, if they want to take this as a breakpoint back from the United States, they might need Pezz to break. It's still 100k in the favor of the US and just a little bit of map remaining. It's going to be close if not, but there goes Amamya Kokoro and FlyingTuna, and that'll do it. Pezz to hold at the end of the map for the United States and secure this point. Make sure that there's no chance that either of those big combos from the side of South Korea had any shot at bringing this score lead back. It's another one in the bag for the United States and a 3-1 scoreline to cap off their second pick. Very, very solid scores from multiple people in this lobby, but ultimately it comes out from the United States. 3 600Ks from Pezz, decaten, and Rectagon, putting in major work there to make sure that score lead stayed on their side for basically the entire map. There was that little itty-bitty 15k score lead at the start for South Korea, and once that first FC drop happened, it never went back their way.
And it's just, again, you know, kind of the USA doing a little bit of what South Korea was doing on the previous map, where if somebody broke, somebody else had a combo, whether it was Rectagon, decaten, or Pezz through the ending there. And, I mean, geez, can we talk about Pezz, right? Coming in as another one of these very hyped-up rookie players in OWC this year, like fragranceofpage, like Skia from the UK, and really performing to and even exceeding expectations has been nothing but impressive time and time again, holding the clutch combo out for the USA on that map to maintain that 100k plus lead throughout the last quarter of the pick. And now we go to South Korea for another pick of their own, and they're going to pick into a skill set that I think we anticipated out of them in this matchup. It's going to be the free mod 1, so we're going to get kind of this dense aim, and South Korea has done unimaginable things on aim maps over the past couple of weeks. Their team score on last week's Nomad 1, untouchable for any other team by an order of several 100,000 points. And looking to keep kind of that same trend going on aim picks in this pool. This does feel like a skill set where they should be advantaged against the United States team that historically has really never leveraged aim as a main strength. They have been largely content to ignore it, and South Korea may be looking to take advantage of it. But again, one of those maps where you can break on aim patterns anywhere, and anyone can do it. It can happen to darn near anybody. And so it's another pick that feels like it's likely to be very contested, despite South Korea being on paper favored.
Yeah, on paper favored for South Korea, though, is right. I mean, 3.7 million on the Nomad 1 last week, 3.1 million on the Nomad 1 the week before. In round of 32, they put up a 4-way full combo on the Nomad 1 there, which is, I believe, with mod multipliers removed from any modded picks, including free mods, the single highest score of the tournament so far. So this skill set for them is just absolutely ridiculous. They are a team that excels at this aim, and so for them to falter, it is possible, but not very likely. Whereas the United States, this is a team that typically has not really liked playing these sorts of aim maps. Even Free Mod 1, stuff that's a little more awkward, stuff that does have that density element or that has that aim control with the Hard Rock, it's still not something that they have typically picked into as a roster, and this is a multi-year trend for the United States of not really being an aim team, but being extremely good on aim control, on speed, on reading, on anything else in the pool, right? So for South Korea to be a team that excels at this skill set when there are multiple aim maps in this pool, I think is very good for their pick strategy in this match. And let's see if they can actually keep up this pick strategy after this pick, because if you lose this one, you lose access to a lot of the rest of this pool. The Nomad one, the Hard Rock one, maybe even the Free Mod 4, all potential picks for South Korea, and so losing this would mean losing access to a lot of those potential other picks in the pool. It's Hyok, FlyingTuna, fragranceofpage, and worst HR player for South Korea. Hyok on the Hard Rock, worst HR player on the Hidden, everyone else Nomad, Hydrogen Bomb, Rectagon, tekkito, Utami, and decaten in for the United States. Rectagon on the Hard Rock, tekkito on the Hidden. No surprises there either.
Yeah, this one lining up pretty much exactly how you would have anticipated, and I think as always on an aim map, going to be eyes on Hyok, one of the preeminent aim players in the world at the moment. He has set the most ridiculous aim scores you've ever seen, on and on and on, but it's going to be the early break from FlyingTuna, a couple in fact, and it will be shortly. Excuse me, there was a break from decaten, I apologize. So this lead will be more or less even slightly in favor of the United States, but a bare margin at most as we get through these early stages of this pick. Everybody else, by and large, looking quite comfortable to this point. It's just going to be a matter of holding on when the going gets more difficult, but for now, dead even on this pick so far.
Dead even so far, and this is a map that has, as you said, a lot of easy places to break. Back and forth aim, wide angle, awkward jumps, anti-aim in this map. It's really got it all in terms of an aim suite for this map. And at 230 BPM and AR9, those Nomad scores are not as solid as you might expect. Obviously, the Hidden players are going to have a tougher time on something like this, but these Nomad scores are not guaranteed for these players. And there goes decaten, does find another slider break there, I believe in the bottom right corner. So another break for the United States. It's a slight lead for South Korea, but another couple of breaks there from tekkito. Did find a break on the square pattern on multiple of those notes, and now it's 2 FCs for the United States versus 3 for South Korea. Hyok, Fragrance, and worst HR player all holding on to those FCs, and FlyingTuna on a good recovery here for the Nomad. It's Rectagon on the Hard Rock and Utami on the Nomad, so the two players I think you would want holding for the United States still doing so, but South Korea right now, massive combo lead. The score lead is coming over pretty quickly to their side, but it's not huge yet. It's only 120,000.
Yeah, that is not going to feel safe anytime too soon. Still plenty of map to go, with this one being 4 minutes, 21 seconds. That is a lot of time, but the comfort level looking so high. Hyok, fragranceofpage, and worst HR player, and that recovery combo of Tuna all just putting in the work here for South Korea. That lead continues to grow bit by bit, little by little, and their comfort level continues to be on edge a little bit, but that's going to help it out as decaten finds multiple misses once more. There goes Rectagon on one of those two remaining FCs, and this map may just come to a quick conclusion here unless we see a full reset from South Korea, as dominant as you'd expect on the aim to this point. But there do go Hyok and fragranceofpage. Worst HR player, the only FC left, being matched by Utami, who breaks on the last note before the slider, and that might just have done it right there.
I think that's going to seal it up. Worst HR player is still on the FC with Hidden. FlyingTuna on this reverse choke with the Nomad, 98.6 accuracy. There's some combo on tekkito. There's a little bit on Rectagon and decaten, but it's not nearly enough. South Korea with a 450,000 score lead and another couple of misses to come through for decaten. Just going to extend that score lead, extend that combo lead even further for South Korea. And with tekkito gone now, even if there was a full wipe, even if players started chain missing all over the place for South Korea, there is nothing the United States could do on this pick. dominant on aim indeed for South Korea. This is the skill set they, I think, should and probably are going to lean into for the foreseeable future in this match, as this now looks to be even close to as dominant as the USA was on that DT1. Well over 750k by the end of the map for South Korea, and their biggest score lead by far in this match.
Yeah, it's going to be a final margin of just shy of 800,000 points, and what a crazy team score. It's 3.2 million for him with the one miss on that very last pattern, practically an FC. FlyingTuna not too far behind, and Page and Hyok breaking right about the same place in the map. And man, this opens up some avenues for South Korea the rest of the way. As you alluded to before the map got started, they have the Nomad 1 open to them. They have the Hard Rock 1 open to them. They even have the Freemod 4 if they want it, all aim or aim adjacent. And man, that gives them some opportunities throughout the rest of this match. United States gonna have to play very carefully, because that makes it feel like South Korea has a bunch of really good picks for themselves, even once we get down to the very end, potentially, 10 plus maps into this match. Back the other way, though, it is going to go. USA next pick.
I have a couple of things to say about that last map, by the way. That hidden only one miss from worst HR player would have been number 3 or 4 on the leaderboard. There's currently a single hidden FC from Cookeasy, literally Cookeasy. The next best hidden score is a 2 miss from My Angel Anzu. Hyok 3 days ago full combo that map with Hard Rock as well. Amamya Kokoro 5 days ago with Nomad. And Allegrissimo just now, as they played that map, 5 missed with 1400 combo. So even the players sitting out on South Korea would have been almost top scoring for the United States on that map. That is how ridiculous this team is at aim. Now, they are filling up the leaderboard live during match with these scores. As we get into, I think probably the most predictable pick for the United States, DT2, Popipo, the Ryu remix, the Hatsune Miku vegetable dance. Not by Lucent. This is kind of reminiscent of some older style DT picks, but with the mechanics to match an OWC finals pool. Just about 253-ish, 252-ish BPM, finger control, doubles, quads, longer streams, jumps in between, flow aim for all of those burst patterns as well. It is very tough, but very control focused and much more bursty than long stream heavy, which for South Korea means this sort of map is much better to leave up than the Nomad 5. How much does that matter given what we saw on the DT1? Not entirely sure, but it certainly looks better on paper than something like the Nomad 5.
Yeah, better on paper. We saw the whole better on paper thing play out in the favor of the team that was indeed better on paper on that Freemod 1. So we'll see how that goes into the next map here. But I think anything in a tapping skill set is going to feel pretty good for the United States just in general. But, it's the same, it's like we ask the same questions of maps in different skill sets. Why did the United States choose Hidden 3 to leave up of the Hiddens? Well, it didn't really matter which one they left up. Why did South Korea leave DT2 up of the tapping maps in the pool? Now we're going to find out if that one falls in line the same way, where it's just, well, they had to leave some tapping stuff up. It's going to be Amamya Kokoro in for this one, FlyingTuna, fragranceofpage, worst HR player. Interestingly enough, the 252 BPM bursty DT pick is going to see everybody's favorite, famously not tapping focused player who has been working on it. So we'll see how the improvement arc is coming for Forum on this type of pick. Rekion Utami, tekkito, and WindowLife. Again, a very, very dominant looking roster on a tapping finger control heavy map like this one, but so easy to break on so many different things, as worst HR player is going to show us early on. He'll become the first fall, followed by tekkito, followed by Amamya Kokoro, and Dio, the accuracy. Talk to me about the accuracy here, because I'm not liking what I'm seeing from South Korea.
It ain't looking good, brother. It is not looking good for South Korea early on. We'll leave it at that. The United States, however, lowest accuracy for them is 97.4 from Utami. Everybody else above that mark right now. A couple of misses, though, coming through for Rectigon and WindowLife there. So the combos not looking quite as good for the United States as they were a moment ago, but the score lead certainly still way in their favor. 230k and climbing with that break from FlyingTuna. That's the last FC gone for South Korea, and Utami still holding strong for the United States. And Aaron, I don't think it mattered which DTs were left up by South Korea. I don't think it mattered which ones they banned. Nomad 5, DT3, DT2, DT1, they're all bad picks, unfortunately, for South Korea. And fortunately for the United States, they are well out ahead in this one. You know, they say never, but this is looking pretty one-sided, just, again, taking stock of the accuracy.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny because the combo for South Korea isn't even that bad. Like, they actually have combo lead here. It just so happens that they're down by 3, 4, 5% on the accuracy, which makes it very, very hard to bring that score gap back. I mean, you've got 500 plus combo on Worst HR Player, 500 combo nearly on fragranceofpage, 400 on Tuna. So eventually this combo will outweigh the accuracy discrepancy, but when you've got tekkito and WindowLife holding on to some pretty good combo and with 98 AC apiece, it's really going to prevent South Korea from bringing it back at any sort of pace. And now that we're seeing the combos building up the way they are for the players holding them, namely tekkito, WindowLife, and Utami on the backing, it doesn't even matter. I don't think. Wait a minute.
Tekkito broke. It's coming over. They still have massive combo. FlyingTuna will break, but there's not enough time.
Yeah, no. With accuracy, South Korea wins that. With accuracy, they win that. But unfortunately, 95, 95, 94, 93 against double 98.6s and a high 92, high 96s. I mean, South Korea wins that if they can play it in the correct fashion rather than having to mash their way through it, because they out-combo gamed the United States on that pick. Unfortunately, the United States out-act them by enough that it did not end up mattering.
Yeah. And it's you can see why they left that up, right? You can see why they left this one up as opposed to the DT3 or the Nomad 5, because they can combo game this. That was an absolutely winnable map for South Korea. They didn't win it in this match, but that was a winnable pick for them. So definitely makes sense to leave something like that up. That said, now the United States has the United River Styx has picked DT1, DT2, and Hard Rock 3, which are all tapping maps in one way or another, right? Hard Rock 3 is 200 BPM, much lower than the other two, but still a stream map, still a tapping map. There's not really any of that left in the pool. The only thing that's even relatively similar is this Free Mod 4, and that's mostly an aim map with just a little bit of tapping on the bursts, but all of these are now gone for the United States. They did also take the Nomad 3. So if you want to go into similar stuff like that, you could maybe look at the Nomad 3, or excuse me, they took the Nomad 2. So could go into the Nomad 3, could go into the Free Mod 2 after this. But significantly less guaranteed, quote unquote, options for the United States remaining now. And for South Korea, after that Free Mod 1, this Hard Rock 1 makes tons of sense. This is very, very similar in terms of the awkward wide angle jumps. Very similar in terms of the BPM. This is 240 as opposed to 230. The only main difference here is this is played with Hard Rock, so AR10, OD10, CS 5.2 for all players rather than one of the four. So South Korea may not have that density advantage on the Free Mod 1 as they had earlier. But just with how good South Korea has looked on aim throughout the tournament, you, again, expect this to be a very, very good pick for them.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty cut and dried one to me, right? You win the Free Mod 1 with the kind of performance they had on it. You just go into aim because it's obvious that you're playing aim very well. You are as this South Korean roster, such an incredible level on the aim maps that it just makes a lot of sense to continue in this skill set. And again, I mean, it's Hyok, it's Forum, it's Tuna, it's Allegrissimo coming in for this one. Or not. There he goes.
Or not. Never mind.
I wasn't expecting him to be in for this, but I was like, you know, maybe they know something I don't. Meanwhile, yeah, there's fragranceofpage. Meanwhile, that makes a little more sense. Meanwhile, decaten, Rectigon, Pezz, and Utami. United States will put their best foot forward on every map, right? Like, it's relatively rare to see them truly getting gapped on any skill set on any map. and they have solid Hard Rock aim players on that side, but I mean, come on. Like, this South Korea team is just stupid on aim. It's dumb. It's going to be Karcher in, as it turns out, in place of FlyingTuna, so they're just making switches up until the last second here. But whoever it is, like, they'll be fine. It'll just be fine.
Yeah, I mean, watch them as they go, watch them as they come, but it's still a ridiculous Hard Rock aim roster for South Korea. At the end of everything, we get Hyuk, Karcher, FragranceOfPage, and worst HR player in for them. As you said, decaten, Rectigon, Pezz, and Utami in for the United States. Still a very good Hard Rock aim roster for this team as well, but South Korea showed us their mettle on the Free Mod 1 and are looking to repeat here on this Hard Rock 1 with, again, a very similar sort of map, very similar sorts of patterns in this map as we get into things. A little bit of that awkward anti-aim patterning, a little bit of the wide-angle jumps to start us off. And nobody breaking so far, but it is very early days on this map. And actually a miss for Karcher, a miss for worst HR player, a miss for Hyuk, all right at the start. That is not good for South Korea, now down 3 full combos. It is not that much combo overall, but you don't really want to be missing 300, 400 combo in this map right from the outset. With just FragranceOfPage holding onto the FC, United States now another miss for Hyuk to come through. And this is starting to be a little concerning a quarter of the way into the map with the 4-way full combo still going strong for the USA.
Yeah, 3-way full combo for the USA with a very early break from Utami, but indeed, like, you don't want to give up advantages when you don't really need to. That was by no means the most difficult portion of this map on which South Korea just found those breaks. They will need to stabilize, and we'll see how long the USA can hold on to all 4 of these combos, the triple FC and Utami backing it up. It is FragranceOfPage to hold on to the FC for South Korea as we reach about the halfway mark. This just brutal flow and back and forth in triples. I mean, this section is so much harder than it may visually appear. And there's the double break from the United States. It's Rectigon and Utami to fall. Hyuk will trade one of them out, but that is going to be a net gain for South Korea. There goes Pezz as well. And decaten falls. It's a full collapse from the United States at the halfway mark. All 4 players go down. FragranceOfPage holding the FC, finally breaking, but it is worst HR player, and it is Karcher holding down the big combos for South Korea. And just like that, the lead goes to South Korea immediately. The United States just completely in tatters after that section of the map, and now South Korea can run with this as long as Karcher and worst HR players' legs can hold out.
Let's see if they can take them over the finish line with this one. It looks like it, as another couple of breaks come through for Pezz, the only player to break in this ridiculous linear slider section with the wide angles and anti-aim patterns. Rectigon and Pezz will find another couple of breaks there, but everyone from South Korea holds. It's, again, Karcher and worst HR player holding onto these high combos for South Korea, generating this score lead, and was less than a quarter of the map to go. Combo alive on Utami and decaten, but matched by Hyuk and FragranceOfPage, and there goes decaten as well. It's another break to come through for Rectigon afterwards. Finally, worst HR player will drop again, but Karcher still with this massive recovery going into the hardest part of the map. This ridiculous high spacing into low spacing, high intensity section with the pattern aim, the back and forth jumps, the low spacing afterwards. Everyone on South Korea except for worst HR player is able to hit it, and that is not a sentence you often say, but just about everyone from the United States hitting that as well. These players dealing with that section immaculately, but at the end of the day, it's still that massive combo lead on Karcher for South Korea and a massive score lead for the team as well. They did take them over the finish line. They ran with that lead. 890k for Karcher on that map. 1 miss with the 98 AC. A massive, massive score for them, and an over 500k score lead for South Korea. Very well done on that pick, and again, this just goes to show why they continue to pick this aim. They faltered early, they fumbled a little bit at the start, but that really intense, difficult, back and forth linear flow changing into snap section came through in the middle of the map, and South Korea handled it with aplomb, whereas the United States found multiple misses on basically every member. And so South Korea able to take it by virtue of hitting the hardest sections in the map.
That was a wild one to watch, man. United States felt like they were in control through the early goings there, and then just could not get any sort of combo going that was meaningful in the back half of that map, which really, as you said, just goes to show how impressive South Korea can be on these AIM maps. And so, like, they've still got picks in this skill set, right? They've still got the No Mod 1 to think about. They've got the 3 Mod 4 to think about. So they've got options going forward. Meanwhile, we flip things over. We go to the United States next pick. DT1, DT2, Hard Rock 3, all gone. Now the question mark. Where do you go next if you're the USA in this matchup? Because stuff is just not going to feel as comfortable the rest of the way through this matchup. You've got Alt, which you won, but like you probably don't feel comfortable with. You've got Tech that you're good on, but God, South Korea is one of the best in the world at Tech. So now things get a little more challenging. It is going to be that No Mod 3. So United States saying we won the Alt No Mod 2. We'll continue to perhaps dabble a small amount into kind of some swing Alt in this No Mod pool and see if it can work out a second time in this match to maintain the advantage.
Yeah, I think this is one of the better picks remaining for the United States. You look at the No Mod 3 from last week, which, you know, usually you think No Mod 3, oh, that's an alt map. Well, last week it was CS6 Swing. And this is not CS6, but it is Swing. It's a lot more finger control snap aim focused than it is flow aim wiggle focused or back and forth focused like we saw in the No Mod 2 earlier at the start of the match. And this was a head-to-head victory for the United States looking at both team scores from last week. They were number 1 and number 2 on the map for United States and South Korea in that order, but a head-to-head victory is still a head-to-head victory. And whether it's by 6,000, 100,000, or a million, you take those. That is still a point on the board. And United States, still a very, very good finger control roster for this team. Players like Tekkito, players like Rectagon, players like Kama, players like Decaten. We haven't even seen Kama in this match. He's one of the best finger control players in the game. Has some obscene accuracy plays as well. I don't know if he's going to be in for this map in particular, but certainly a shout on something like this. And again, this is a roster where you have that depth to make those types of roster decisions, right? You have your staple picks in people like Utami, Rectagon, to some extent Decaten as well, but there are multiple other people that the United States can put in for this map. And so you're going to expect a solid roster for them. That said, South Korea, it's not like they're slouches on this sort of thing. They were still the number 2 team score of the weekend on this map. Players like Worst HR Player, players like Allegrissimo could be in for this as well. It doesn't look like he is going to be in on this one, was in on the No Mod 3 last week. But players like Hawk, players like Fragranceofpage, players like FlyingTuna, again, still ridiculous on this type of swing alt finger control, snappy aim focused sort of pick. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing these teams face off head-to-head on this. This is, as you said, Aaron, I think the first USA pick that has felt like a toss-up. Maybe a slight favoring toward the United States at the outset, but certainly by no means as favored towards them as things like we've seen in the DT1, the DT2, the Hard Rock 3. So this is the test of the United States and their remaining picks in this pool.
And as we said at the outset of this match, it was always, a little bit felt like it was going to be the question of what kind of advantage could the United States have when they went, you know, through the DT picks, and what would they pick into when they ran out of those speedy maps. And with the breakpoint in hand off that No Mod 2, No Mod 3 does make sense as kind of a similar but different skill set. Man, this is taking us back a ways to a map that can be very, very close, and it's an early break from Decaten, not what you want to see. Down at 95 accuracy, Rectagon down at 96 as well. A little bit of discomfort here to start this match off for the USA. South Korea, meanwhile, Tuna, Hyok, FragranceofPage, and Forum on the 4-way FC thus far through some very challenging slider finger control patterns. And everyone making it through except Tekkito. Down goes Tuna, down goes Decaten again. 3 FCs to 2 in favor of South Korea as Rectagon falls, makes that 3-1. And this is feeling like maybe just a little bit of a mispick here from the United States as they move into the more challenging portion of this match in terms of pick strategy.
Yeah, and, you know, we've seen comebacks from behind before already in this match, right? We saw the Hard Rock 1, the very last map. South Korea was behind until suddenly the United States fell apart in the middle, and South Korea held their combo, held their nerve, and were able to take it back. There is still time for that sort of thing to happen in this match and in this map, but it's going to have to come relatively soon. We are now halfway through the pick. Another break to come through for FlyingTuna. So combo a little bit better for the United States, but the score lead still going in the favor of South Korea. Hyuk versus HR player, fragranceofpage all still on the full combos. Only Utami for the United States, but big recovery for decaten, solid recovery for tekkito, and Rectagon not too far behind as well. But there goes decaten. It's another drop during this second KI time, 2/3 of the way into the map, and that now is going to cut the remaining score down for the United States by quite a lot. It's a 300,000 score lead for South Korea, and they still have this three-way full combo going 2/3, almost 3/4 of the way into the map. In the United States, I think it's safe to say at this point, potentially a mispick for this roster. If everyone on South Korea breaks and Utami holds by himself, there might be a chance at a comeback here. If we see 2 or 3 breaks for South Korea, there is enough time for these other combos on the United States to bring this back, but that requires a lot of luck and a lot of grit from the US to hold everything into the ending.
And I just don't know if there's going to be that kind of luck remaining. It is the break from Forum, so the door, like, maybe just ever so slightly creaks open, but down goes Rectagon, and really it's just not going to matter what the US does, because Hyuk is still holding the FC into the ending, FragranceofPage is still holding the FC into the ending, and this is another one of these ridiculous gimmicky map team scores that South Korea has put up throughout this tournament time and time again. Hyuk and FragranceofPage, newcomers to the Korea roster, help them find their first break point of the match. It is a 3 million team score for South Korea. Unbelievable stuff. Who cares about 95 AC? Who cares about 97 AC? It's an S rank. It's another S rank. Oh, look, it's a third for South Korea on the pick. And that is the match tied up for a piece. The United States' first real question mark of a pick ends up being an exclamation point for South Korea, and now we have a best of 5 remaining in the match, and United States has question marks remaining the rest of the way, let alone just this map. South Korea feels like they maybe just have switched the momentum on over their way with the way these last couple picks have gone.
Yeah, this now, I mean, this is a solid break point for South Korea. If they can take this next one back, you know, pull in the nerves a little bit, take the next pick, they will be up 5-4. They will have at least the 1 point advantage. For now, though, that break point just evens things out, right? We are back tied 4-4. It is not a ridiculously one-sided affair. Even, you know, 2 picks left for both teams. South Korea, okay, you probably look at Nomad 1 and either the Free Mod 4, as it still is mostly an AIM map, or maybe something like the DT4 that is also AIM. And for the United States now, what are their 2 picks? The Free Mod 2 and the... Oh, and actually, no, it's not going to be AIM for South Korea. It's going to be Nomad 4. We're going to get Data Eraser by Lusumi, mapped by Funny and Hihi, goated collab. And this is an OS original. This is an original song for the World Cup Finals. We did also, of course, get the Hidden 3 original earlier, as well as the Nomad 3. That was an original for a different mode World Cup, but this is another one of those OS originals for the OS World Cup 2024 Finals. This is slider tech straight up. This is 200 BPM, somewhat mechanics tech, but the sliders, finger control, spaced cut streams are absolutely ridiculous in this map. And on paper, you look at this South Korea roster and you think this is an obscene team for tech picks. But the United States is right behind them. Utami, decaten, Rectagon, tekkito, players like Kama as well can be really, really ridiculous on tech like this. So this is something that can go either way. Once again, I think a little bit less favored towards South Korea than the raw AIM that is left in this pool, with things like the Nomad 1 still open. But maybe something they felt like they would have had to pick at some point regardless. As Data Eraser now looking at the next pick for South Korea. Let's see how this one shakes out. I am looking forward to seeing both of these teams face off on this map. Because if it's anything like what we've seen in terms of the head-to-head scores from previous weeks on tech picks, this should be a good one.
Yeah, to mention from last week, right? 6,416 points between the two teams on their respective performances on that No Mod 4. I mean, geez. This is the two teams that I think everybody wanted to see play this map when it was revealed in the showcase. This type of slider tech, so good for so many members of these rosters, right? I don't even, you can't pick a favorite for who in this roster is the best at tech because everyone is so good at it. But I mean, again, you've got Tuna, Forum, Hyok, and Amamya Kokoro, which is just like an absolute final boss juggernaut of a slider tech roster. And we'll see what the United States can do. Breakpoint in their favor on the first map of the match. And then on the 8th, they give it back up finally. And we'll see if they can claim it once more, as an early break does come in from FlyingTuna at the very start, not going to mean all that much. We are just watching and enjoying masters of their craft on a map such as this one, with 7 FCs still intact in the lobby, with the second break to come from Amamya Kokoro, and that is going to be advantage United States at the 1/4 mark.
That's another break to come through for tekkito right afterwards, though. Hold your breath for Bancho misses on a map like this. With all the sliders abounding in this pick, you can sometimes get those false misses in the tournament client, so do make sure that it is a real miss before thinking that it might be over for one side or the other. It's still 2 full combos for South Korea and a big recovery for FlyingTuna. Amamya Kokoro on a slightly higher recovery combo than tekkito as well. It's still the 3 full combos, though, for the United States, keeping things on a knife's edge. 35k in favor of the United States going into the second half of the map, and still 5 full combos intact at this point. It is a massive team score for both of them. Another break to come through for both FlyingTuna and tekkito, but you prefer that if you're the United States. A little bit more combo on FlyingTuna there than on tekkito, but another break to come through for the USA captain here. It's the 3 full combos holding down the fort for the United States, but there goes Rectagon. The hydrogen bomb is dropped, and there goes decaten. Hyok will trade it out, but it is still 1 full combo to 1. Worst HR player versus Utami on the FCs, but big support for Amamya Kokoro, pulling it back towards South Korea here into the last quarter now. Another drop for Rectagon, and it is still so close, under 100k, but in favor and growing for South Korea. tekkito to find another couple of drops. Amamya Kokoro, Hyok, and Utami all breaking at the same point, and that will do it. It's another point for South Korea. This looked like a massively close point when we loaded into the map, but worst HR player is here to say, nah, no problem. Put me in once again. Put me in for every single map so far, and I will continue to deliver. The full combo from worst HR player.
He is the best in the world at his maps, and this is his map. The slider tech overlord of the OSU tournament scene. Time and time again, we've seen it on the biggest stages, and this is no exception. The lone FC in the lobby and the top score by over 200,000 points. Forum saying to his team, if y'all need to get in my backpack, go for it, and I will carry you to victory. And he does it here to put South Korea in the lead in this match for the first time. The United States was ahead the entire way through until the 4-4 tie, and now it's South Korea with their nose out in front. And big pick to come from the United States. South Korea 1 point from forcing a match point. If they can pull off another break, the United States have to find something. They have to stop this slide, because that's a few points in a row for South Korea. And where do you even go if you're the USA? Not a lot left in this pool looking too great for you.
And can we just, for a second, talk about that accuracy, by the way? That was 99 accuracy on the full combo from worst HR player. The other players did have good ac. It was 98 from decaten, 98 from Amamya Kokoro, 98 from tekkito, but 99 ac on an FC on something like that is absolutely absurd. To boot, both of those teams are the top 2 scores of the weekend so far on that map, number 1 and number 2, once again, for the United States and South Korea on that pick, as we get into yet another absolutely ridiculous sort of gimmick map, this time on the reading and rhythm CS5 AR9 OD9 in the free mod pool. It's a KTG-ster rhythm map, and it does it all. You want your 1/3s, we got them. You want your 1/6, we got them. You want your 1/8 triples, a couple of 1/8 quints, we got them. And how about, just for the sake of the song, how about we sprinkle in a few 1/7 streams for you as well? How about those? Some 7 or 8 node, I believe, 1/7 streams in this map. Now, a lot of those are broken up by how they are mapped, the way they are placed in terms of what the pattern looks like, as well as the spacing on these patterns differs from beat snap divisor to beat snap divisor. So the 1/3s always look different from your 1/4s, the normal streams. The normal streams, 1/4, always look different from the 1/6, which always look different from the 1/8, which always look different from the 1/7. So if you understand how things are shaped, how they are spaced in this map, it helps a lot with that reading. But that doesn't help all that much when it comes down to executing and actually hitting the damn patterns, because my god, is it still so difficult to do, especially if you're trying to read something like this with hidden. The object density, even though it's 133 BPM, can be quite challenging with all of the higher beat snap divisors in the map. Again, 1/6 is effectively DT, 1/8 is double the BPM, 266. And on Hard Rock, of course, you're dealing not just with the higher OD on a rhythm map like this, but also with CS 6.5 on this pick. So this is a bear on the mods. It is absolutely an anti-mod pick, and you are going to see bare minimum mods from both of these teams as well. Hidden for FlyingTuna, Hard Rock for Worst HR Player, no mod for both fragranceofpage and Amamya Kokoro. Double Hard Rock, actually, from the United States. Kama and Rectagon both on the Hard Rock. tekkito on the Hidden, and Utami on the No Mod. It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it plays out for him.
It is a bold move indeed, but anything at this point in the match was always going to feel bold on a pool such as this that does feel like it has a few more picks for South Korea than for the United States. Also bold, of course, the fact that you have Kama in for his first map of the entire match, as map number 10 as the United States seeks to avoid going down a match point or two here. And he will be the first to break for that side, along with FlyingTuna on the Hidden breaking for South Korea. And you can already see what this map throws at you. You've got the snap aim requirement, you've got the various finger control, all these different beat snap divisor bursts, and the challenge is there, and the players so far up to it. The Utami accuracy, holy moly, guys, the Utami accuracy thus far. It's another break from Kama for him. FlyingTuna, Friggers, and Page, all to fall for South Korea. It is down to just Amamya Kokoro holding the lone full combo for South Korea still. Meanwhile, USA, Utami, tekkito, and Rectagon holding through to this point. Halfway down goes Amamya Kokoro. And United States rolling on this pick in a way we have not seen from them in a little bit here. 400,000 points, nearly 500k already, and there's still an entire third of the map to go. This looks to be a very one-sided affair for the United States, if they can keep holding on. A great pick.
I mean, my god, man. Like, still the three-way full combo, 3/4 of the way into the map for the United States. It's unassailable. It is unassailable. This is an absolutely ridiculous performance from the USA on this map. Kama isn't even needed on this pick. They are 3v4ing easily. This is just obscene from the US. Finally a break from one of these other full combos. It is from Rectagon on that second Hard Rock, but it just doesn't matter. Apparently the double Hard Rock was for fun because they really didn't need the double Hard Rock, but even if they had gone no mod, it wouldn't have mattered. 1.1 million team score difference in favor of the United States to tie things up 5-5. Guarantee both teams get their last pick, get access to that final pick of the match. The double FC coming through for Utami and tekkito. And again, it goes to show that this pool these maps, yes, a lot of them are control focused. Yes, a lot of them are a little gimmicky. That does not mean the United States should be counted out of any of these picks, because they still have some absolutely absurd players for these sorts of maps.
As we said from the very outset of the match, a lot of these picks that you might think are South Korea favored or, 50-50, United States has plenty of strong players for. They've been here before. They've seen the rhythm control picks before. They've seen the aim control picks before. They've seen the finger control picks before. They know what they're getting themselves into, and they're more than prepared for it. And as you said, it's one pick left per team. We're at 5-5. We're guaranteed each team's last pick. South Korea, you just pick Nomad 1. You don't think about it. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Just take your Nomad 1 and, get your match point. This was like the pick we expected. So I'm not even going to talk about this because it's just aim. It's just raw aim, and South Korea is broken on this skill set. But, if you're USA, you're almost just thinking ahead to the next pick. And you're thinking back to 2 picks ago, like, you had that free mod 2 available, and with hindsight, it's like, man, if only we had picked that with the previous pick and didn't give up the break point on the Nomad 3. But you can't do anything now except go forward and put your best foot forward and give it your best shot on the Nomad 1. But man, the way South Korea has been looking on this aim, it is a tall order to even be competitive in a map with them on this skill set, much less win it, especially as a break point.
Yeah, never say never, but it's looked very dominating from South Korea on these sorts of aim picks throughout the match and throughout the tournament, really. So not going to be expecting a sudden upset from the United States on this pick. If it does happen, it would be massive for this match, as they would have match point next pick, able to close it out before the tiebreaker. But you have to expect South Korea to be very, very solid on this. Cool, calm, and collected. All 4 players already in the lobby for South Korea. Hyok, FragranceOfPage, FlyingTuna, worst HR player up against, for a time there, 0 players. Now Pezz back in the lobby for the United States. There are a couple of longer space streams at 200 BPM in this map, so if there's any patterns I feel like you could look to for potential chain misses, potential discomfort for South Korea, it would be some of those patterns. We did see, of course, on the Hard Rock 3, South Korea not the best on those sorts of patterns. USA was able to abuse that skill set versus them in the 200 BPM space streams, so we may be able to see that sort of pattern matter in this map, but with how the game has looked for South Korea, it is not super likely. For the United States, we have Utami, decaten, WindowLife, Rectagon trying to take the break point and get to match point. And as for South Korea, Hyok, FragranceOfPage, Allegrissimo, worst HR player in to attempt the match point for South Korea. Let's get into this Nomad 1. Custom map by Tome Dragon, 7.85 stars and 200 BPM. Last week, we saw the Melon Boy custom, which was 220 BPM. That map, in retrospect, somewhat accessible for a lot of players, I think in large part due to the decreased spacing because of that higher BPM. 220 BPM, it's a lot easier to get to that higher star rating. 200 BPM, it's way harder. You have to have massively spaced jumps to get to this sort of star rating on a map like this. And here they come. Here we are already. These sorts of jumps just do not stop in this map.
Yeah, Tome Dragon, of course, very well known for just the crazy spacing on his aim throughout maps that he has created over time, and this is absolutely no exception. It's going to be the early break from WindowLife to get things underway here for the USA down to the 3 FCs. South Korea thus far unblemished, unmarred, unbroken on aim. We'll see how long the 4-way can remain intact. It's only a small lead, of course. This is nearly 4 minutes long, but they get through another big pattern. They get through the stream as well. And look at that, Forum SSing that stream. So if there were any concerns over some of those streams causing trouble for him, I think you might be able to take a little bit of a deep breath and not be too worried. USA, though, 3 full combos still intact. Just WindowLife with that slight misaim, a little quad into slider pattern. We'll see how long those can be maintained, but they're going to need some help because South Korea just looks So, as Dio said, cool, calm, collected, and there's the next break. It's decaten, still 4-way for South Korea, because of course it's still a 4-way for South Korea.
That said, you can't count your chickens before they hatch, right? You cannot count on this for a victory until it is finally over for South Korea. Still the 2-way full combo for the United States on Utami and Rectigon. Still a good recovery combo for WindowLife on this. And into the second KI time we go. Massive scores for everyone on South Korea. Massive combos for 7 people in the lobby. There goes one of them. It is WindowLife to fall. The 2FCs still going for the United States, and now a 200,000 score lead as Utami also finds the drop for the United States. It is 4 full combos for South Korea against just Rectigon on the United States. Allegrissimo will drop as well during this part of the song, but Utami's going to trade it out once again, and that is still a 2 full combo advantage for South Korea, 3-1 in their favor, with Hyuk, fragranceofpage, and worst HR player all still holding these FCs for their team. Just an absolutely massive scoreline, and there goes Rectigon, and there goes any hopes of the United States taking this map, dashed away by the last guitar solo stream. It is South Korea. Was there ever any doubt at the start of this map?
I just say no. This South Korea team is showing us levels of aim heretofore considered impossible. But my, oh my, they just keep going. It is into the last ki. It is a triple full combo still intact. It is nearly a 1,000,000 score difference. And man, USA we thought might have had something crazy with that 1.1 million score gap on the free mod 2. South Korea saying we can do that also. It is a late break from Forum into the ending, but fragranceofpage Hyuk still holding. And it's going to be a 1,000,000 score difference on 2 points in a row. First for United States, and this time for South Korea, as they will close out the map. A lone FC by the end on fragranceofpage, but a 3.4 million, 7.85 star Nomad 1 team score is a sight to behold. And it will give South Korea the only match point of this match. United States forced to pick to avoid dropping right here and now, but man, can we just look at those scores from Korea, because my lord, what is this team doing on aim?
1.1 million team score gap, 1,100,000 score gap on 11 stud. It was just meant to be. It was just meant to be on that map. As now we get into the last pick for the United States. The Nomad pool completely gone. The hidden pool completely gone. 1 Hard Rock left in the Hard Rock 2. Flow aim, 170 BPM, CS 6.5 precision. 1 DT left in the DT4. Lag trains mostly aim, honestly. A lot of jump aim, a lot of slider jumps in that map as well. The free mod 3 anti-mod CS6 AR 7.5 reading and precision hybrid pick there. And then last but not least, the free mod 4 Monday Mania 258 BPM CS2, but mostly aim once again. And so I feel like these last 2 picks for the United States probably comes down to whether they want to go the Hard Rock 2 or the free mod 3. And it is going to be that Hard Rock 2. They have already won on Ainane in the Hard Rock 3 200 BPM space streams. They're going to try their hand here at a little bit higher circle size and a little lower BPM.
Standing their ground on the precision Hard Rock, which was a map that they had a superior score to South Korea last week by about 232k. But man, it's like it doesn't even, it's just going to come down to the smallest of margins on something like this. Because there's, again, it's a situation where you are forced into picking whatever feels just slightly best of the remaining maps, and everybody is just holding their breath and praying because the nerves are at an all-time high, and the exhaustion, the mental fatigue of the match is growing and growing. And there are so many little factors that can play into this type of map beyond just the raw difficulty of what it actually has to offer you. And man, if memory serves, you know, this comes down to a big diff spike, right? There's a big diff spike we're going to be looking out for.
It definitely does. The last about third, maybe quarter of this map is just absolutely ridiculous in comparison to most of the things that come before it. There are still hard patterns in the first 3/4, 2/3 of this map. There are still difficult one-shot patterns. Lots of very high spacing circle quints in this map that can absolutely wreck your combo. Lots of linear streams, once again, with changes between very low and very high spacing pretty much instantly. If you leave the start of that stream too early, you will chain miss right afterwards. But a lot of this at the ending comes down to the massive buff to spacing that nearly every pattern sees at the end. And so if you have a big score lead going into that ending section, it's not likely to change. You're not likely to see a lot of star player carry performances at the end, even with the star-studded rosters that we have coming in for both of these teams. Karcher, Allegrissimo, Hyuk, and worst HR player coming in for South Korea. Pezz, Rectagon, Utami, and decaten coming in for the United States. Both of these teams, the exact same rosters that we saw on Hard Rock 2 last week for them on Saika, repeating the exact same roster here for the Hard Rock 2 in I'm not pronouncing this week's finals, Hard Rock 2. Let's see it. Let's get into it. This is the last pick of the match, no matter which way this goes, whether it's to tiebreaker or whether it's to the winner's side of grand finals for South Korea. This is the very last pick that we will see from either of these teams. A couple of early breaks to start us off. More on the side of the United States with Pezz and Utami finding breaks right there at the start. Karcher, the only one to match, but another miss on the jumps to come through for Karcher. And so combo lead a little bit back the way of the United States.
And Karcher is a player who's been a little less present in this match than in South Korea's matches in past years, able to kind of take a little bit of a back seat in this one, and we'll see if it comes back to bite them, having him maybe not as warmed up as he would have otherwise been. It's a trade there from Allegrissimo and Pezz, so you have the double FC on Rectagon and decaten. You have the double FC. No, my goodness, it's a break from decaten and Utami. Worst HR player and Hyuk on the double full combo still for South Korea. Pezz continuing to struggle. Rectagon, the only combo for the United States, but there goes Hyuk, there goes Karcher, so that is going to stabilize it out just a little bit. It is Forum, it is Rectagon. They have been heroes time and time again throughout this entire year. There goes Forum, there goes Hyuk once more, and it is down to only Allegrissimo with about 300 combo as the United States tries to pull this one back, but there's Rectagon right into the break at the halfway mark of the map. And just as the score lead might have flipped, it's going to stop. It's going to halt in its tracks at 34,000 points. Through this lengthy break, the players will see the score. The players will know it is practically dead even. Combo ever so slightly in favor of South Korea with Allegrissimo.
And Aaron, when it's this close, when you have a 30-40k score lead for either of these teams going into the ending, yes, Allegrissimo is going to build a little bit of score here for South Korea, but some of this can just come down to whichever team chain misses more, whichever team has a worse time on the ending. You already see this ridiculous spacing here. This increases what we were talking about before the start of the map. Absolute havoc as both teams finding misses all over the place. The only one with any semblance of combo is Rectagon. He is finding his way. He is building a path through this ending in the map. Can he hold on long enough? Can the rest of his team hold it together enough to bring this score lead back to the side of the United States? It's all on his shoulders. The star player for the United States. He's had a quiet World Cup so far, but can he bring it back to force the tiebreaker versus South Korea in winners finals? Is there enough time? Is there enough combo? It's only 80k, but there's just more for South Korea, and more is all you need. Whether it's 80k, 800k, 1.1 million, it doesn't matter. A point is still a point, and that's all they needed to close it out and get to the grand finals.
And South Korea, the team, it is the full team performance once more. Rectagon doing all he could into the dying seconds of the map, but it was not meant to be. The team performance from South Korea, too strong. Forum, Hyuk, Allegrissimo, Karcher all putting forth efforts that were enough to get the win, and they avoid the tiebreaker onto winner's side grand finals for the third year in a row. Can this finally be the opportunity that anybody other than United States has so long awaited? to break through and claim victory. They just got one step closer, their hardest test yet, and they withstood an onslaught from the United States to go onward to become that first team into the grand finals. Give it up for South Korea. What a match, what a performance, and what a team.
South Korea are here to prove that even gods can bleed. In the last 2 years, in 2022 and 2023, South Korea has only taken one match off the United States, and that was in the semifinals in 2022. In the grand finals in 2022, it was USA 7-1 and then 7-4 through the bracket reset to win. In the 2023 grand finals, it was once again a 2-0 match score for the United States, 7-5 and then 7-6 in the bracket reset to win it all once again. But South Korea now with a win in the true late stages of the tournament, in the true ending section of the OS World Cup, where the United States has been a team for years and years with unmatched scaling. They have finally found a way to beat this roster at the end of the tournament where it matters the most. Gods can bleed, and South Korea are here to take them down. They have finally done it and made their way into, as you said, Aaron, the grand finals from winner's side for the third year in a row. And the United States once more drops to loser's bracket to face off against the winner of the last remaining match of the finals weekend. It is Australia versus Germany in the loser's bracket today, actually, at 12:30 UTC. I was going to say tomorrow. It's tomorrow for me, but today in UTC, Sunday, 12:30 UTC, the last remaining match of the finals weekend and the deciding match for our last top 3 team, our last roster on the podium.
And that match is going to be lights out. Australia and Germany both looked so good in their wins today over Russia and over the United Kingdom, respectively. Really fascinating skill set matchup to come for that Australia-Germany match. We could see once again, back-to-back years, the same top 3, United States, Australia, South Korea, perhaps the same podium 2 years in a row, who knows? But I gotta say, as you mentioned, the first team to beat the United